Hello everybody, Mrhappy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mrhappy, aka Mrhappy Mondays. Now, it's been a long day, recording this on Sunday, despite it being a Monday video. Just finished doing all my tax stuff, so I'm definitely ready to answer some questions. What do you say we get right into it this week? No announcements, really. Alright, so the first question I have comes off Twitter, and it says, at Mrhappy1227, repost from week number 30. Good job on you reposting it on my Twitter, because that'll catch my attention. Question, Final Fantasy XI Dynamis was my favorite MMO raid, and I actually appreciate you calling it a raid. Your thoughts on adding a 14 equivalent of a 24-player Dynamis? So, you know, it's funny, because I just finished doing the RIP Final Fantasy XI video, where I kind of said I'm tired of people always wanting things from Final Fantasy XI to be in Final Fantasy XIV. And Dynamis is one of those things because I really liked Dynamis going in the first time. Every time after that, to me, was just forcing myself to do stuff. Other than the COP Dynamises that came later. Mainly because I just, every 3 days for 7 years, there's only so many times I can do a piece of content. It had good lore. The execution was also cool. An alternate dimension of the cities where everybody lives, where the beastmen have taken over, and you're ultimately working towards defeating, you know, the ultimate Dynamis Lord, or the dream versions. You know, it had just a lot of good lore behind it. It kind of thrived in 11 because 11 was very much about barely rewarding you for your efforts or making sure RNG boned you as often as possible. Now, with Alexander having room between normal and hard mode for content, mostly the Free Company airship thing, content in between those difficulties and gear in between those difficulties, I think in the future, maybe one day we could see something like Dynamis as a 24 style raid, but I would never expect it to be like, you know, you buy an hourglass for 500k or a mil if you want to go really far back. You have to unlock time extension. Actually, 14 is built around time extensions. That wouldn't surprise me. I wouldn't expect it to be like an open-ended area where you could just farm and loot off of enemies. I couldn't see that in Final Fantasy 14. I've been wrong before, but I would not want to do Dynamis every 3 days in Final Fantasy 14. I hated it in 11, but conceptually, I think the raid idea itself is pretty cool. Now, let's move on to some YouTube questions. The very first one, hello Mrhappy1227, this is looking to be a long one. I have a question for hashtag Mondays with Mrhappy regarding 15, since lately you've been my source of info on gaming stuff. Any thought on when the game will be released? Now, for an XIV question, one subject you've mentioned before on stream or something, what do you think about the speed of the flying mount we were shown in the videos? Personally, I like how fast they move, and I also think that if they move that fast, it kind of implies we're going to be seeing some big-ass areas. I hope. Keep up the awesome work. Hap Army. Good to know that you're part of the Happy Army. So, 15 I don't expect to see this year. They've said that they may make some big strides on progress, and if that happens at the earliest, I still think it would be January of next year, missing the holiday season, which I think is a big thing. I would almost expect at the real earliest, because I don't expect them to make those big strides, March of next year, leaning more towards next summer, you know, 2016. As for 14, the speed of flying mounts, they originally told us they weren't going to be that fast. But if they are that fast, I like your twist on it. It means the areas are going to be really big. I'm most looking forward to the Sea of Clouds and the areas in the sky where flying is mandatory, and less about the areas where there's a lot of stuff on the ground that you... Because then, when you have a big ground area where it's like, well, I don't really need a flying mount to get around this stuff, but you've given me that tool, it's what creates that sort of sense of, hey, I don't need to, you know, ever go down there. All that detail, all those enemies you've littered about, if I don't have a quest for them, I'm avoiding them. There's no reason for me to be down there. And I don't like that. So, I'm impartial. I think that it might be a little bit too much, if I have to say anything like that. Alright, for our next question, it's a very long few questions. Oh man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to read all these because I can't spend too much time on one question. Have you tried playing Type 0 from further away from your screen? For those of you who don't know, I think Type 0 is completely unplayable in its current form. For me, the motion blur doesn't make me sick. It gives me a headache, and I'm not going to play a game that gives me a headache. I'm not going to make compromises for a game to try and enjoy it when the game itself is unenjoyable the way. I'm not going to stand farther away from my screen. I'm not going to not use the right stick, not use a camera in a 3D action game. Besides, even without the camera, the game still has terrible motion blur because the lock-on system and the distance from your character aren't good enough. It's the first game where a camera's made a game completely unplayable for me. In all existence of games, I've never had a game that I'm like, well, I can't play this because of the camera. So, yeah, that's basically, you're asking me if that would help me with, you know, getting the headaches. It's the same as if I was playing on a PSP screen versus a full-size screen. It would also be the same as me just playing on any smaller screen. That's the effect of standing farther back, is that your perspective of the screen is that it's smaller. And that would definitely eliminate the headaches. The thing is, I'm not going to go sit on that chair over there just to simulate a PSP. So I haven't tried it. I'm not going to try it. If they had a camera option, I'll play the game again. Other two questions. You going back to on the last day of the PS2 and 360 service to Final Fantasy 11 to say farewell? I wouldn't wait that long. That last content patch is in November. If I was going to go back, I would go back once in May to try out Rhapsodies of Vana'diel Part 1. Then August, I think it is, for Rhapsodies of Vana'diel Part 2. And November for Rhapsodies of Vana'diel, the finale. I wouldn't go back really in March on the last day. Considering I'm playing on a PC, it wouldn't really be a proper goodbye, I guess. And then, let's see. Last question with the announcement of the 11 mobile game. Maybe wonder about 11's life after its service fully ends. Well, the thing is, the service isn't fully ending. Not yet, at least. It's just the PlayStation 2 and Xbox 360 versions. And on top of that, I guess not releasing content, it makes it a good mobile game because there's a lot to do in a Final Fantasy 11 mobile game. Especially because it seems like they are developing specific things for the mobile game. I'm curious about the way that I'm curious. I don't know what to expect with the cutscenes or tweaked version that is a single-player game, but they do say that in the mobile version you can kind of enjoy it in a single-player fashion. Same with Grandmasters, but I don't know if we'll ever see that, so I can't really say much about it. Alright, next question. Hello, Mr. Happy. Hashtag week 32. I've been playing A Realm Reborn from launch, and I still do, but this week having a look at the pre-order for Heavensward, which is €129 and 99 cents. I want you to remember that's just the collector's edition that's that expensive. You don't need the collector's edition to play the game. I'm pretty sure it's only the collector's edition, too, that got boned on the prices. I'm pretty sure the base game actually didn't get boned as hard. So yeah, remember that. That's not the actual price of the expansion. You can just get the regular version, which would be around $40 here in the United States. I don't know if it's 40 euros or whatnot. I think it's still bull that they're paying basically, I think it's $192 before shipping or anything or insurance, whatever. It's bull. It's unfortunate, and especially if it's only the collector's edition. Some people have been telling me that. I haven't really been keeping track of it, but it's pretty stupid. Next question. Hello, Happy. Question for week 32. Is it possible to upgrade from PS3 to PS4 after the end of the free upgrade time? No. Well, it's possible, just not for free, you know? So you need to... I mean, I'd imagine it'd be the cost of playing a whole new game. I don't know, actually. Because upgrades... It's not even an upgrade, because they call it a free upgrade. I wonder if at this point it's literally just, okay, well, now that the free upgrade is done, if you want to play it on PlayStation 4, you got to buy it on PlayStation 4 and put a whole nother license. Or if there is an actual cost, reduced cost for you having the PlayStation 3 version going into the PlayStation 4. I'd expect to have to buy a whole new game knowing the way Square Enix works, but since it is the same system, the same licensing should somewhat be in place. It may be a reduced cost, but I'm not going to give you a definite on that. I'd say expect to have to buy a whole new game. Next question. Hey, Mr. Happy, keep up the good work on the vids. Thank you. So I have two questions, one for A Realm Reborn and one non-related. So for the 14 question, what is your opinion on doing Final Coil now with Heavensward coming in 3 months? Is it worth the time or is it going to be considered useless story-wise and expansion? And for the non-related question, have you ever played the Golden Sun franchise on the Game Boy Advance, and if so, what were your thoughts on it? So I'll answer the Golden Sun one. No, I didn't own a Game Boy Advance. I pretty much stopped buying handheld consoles around that time until the PSP and the DS came out, and then I bought those and like got rid of them in like 3 months. As for doing Final Coil now, the major benefit of doing Final Coil now is to better yourself in a raid environment. The lore isn't going to be completely lost. First of all, it's a great story regardless. You should experience it. It expands upon 1.0 story, and it expands upon the end of the era trailer. So it's still good story-wise. Even doing it in Heavensward, it'll just be way easier by then. As for the gear, it'll be nice when you start leveling up. But I mean, if you have Ironworks stuff, if you have, you know, it's going to be pretty easy to get Ironworks stuff for the rest of the rest of 2.x series, so I wouldn't even worry about that. I'd say the experience in a raid environment is the most important thing. Being able to take down turn 12 and turn 13 should give you a little bit more confidence going into Alexander normal. From that point, whether or not you go into Alexander hard mode is up to you, but I think it's something that everybody should still strive for. It's one of the strong points of the game still, and it'll be in the duty finder soon. So with Echo, I just recommend kind of getting that practice. Next question. Hey Happy, 2 questions for next week. Do you think they've announced 90% of new content for Heavensward, or do you think there's more big stuff we don't know yet, specifically new areas? So do I think that Dravania, Ishgard, Sea of Clouds, and Churning Mist are all that we're getting? Maybe in 3.0's launch, but we also are told these areas are much larger than the previous areas, as opposed to feeding us a lot of areas that are very small, instead giving us a few areas that within those areas they're varied and they're larger. I much prefer that. It's a much more seamless way of playing the game. I think we may see some more areas still later. Places like, I think it's the West Shroud, we should probably expect to see sometime soon. As for the content itself, let's see. We have Alexander Normal, Alexander Hard. We have, so far, 2 primals, a story mode, which we can assume is a hard mode, and an extreme difficulty. We have the Free Company airships. 3.0 will have building. 3.1 will have Free Company airship raids, I guess you can call them. We've got the specialist tier for crafters. We've got the unique nodes in the talisman system coming in for the gatherers. We have 3 new jobs, which most people are guessing, this isn't confirmed, you'll be able to level from 30 to 60. Every other job from 50 to 60. Probably no new guild S, probably new treasure maps. They said we will be getting new hunts. And I'm trying to think, of course, new areas being a big thing. Maybe new sightseeing logs. I don't think anyone's looking forward to that. It's hard to say. We know they haven't announced the 24-man raid for certain. We know that there's going to be one. A lot of people are guessing it might be the floating continent. That's not until 3.1 regardless. So, I don't know. I feel like we still have one more primal to find out about. We know Beast Tribe quests are going to be coming in either 3.05 or 3.1. They haven't decided yet. It's really hard to tell. Plus, like, probably 10 to 12 new dungeons. 14 was the number of dungeons we had when the game first came out, I believe. So it's really hard to say. I think we've seen most of what the content is going to be made up of. I still think there are things that they're hiding from us, though. And by the way, thanks for your advice on T9 in week 23. I'm cleared and at 57% on turn 13. Yeah, once you get past turn 9, man, you can pretty much roll through most of the final coil. 10 and 11 are way easier than turn 9. 12 is about the same difficulty, and 13 is, some would even argue, slightly easier than 12 and 9. So, congratulations, man. Hopefully you can clear turn 13 before it hits the duty finder. Next question, and it's funny because I just read the first few words of it. Hey, Happy, glad you aren't sick these days. There's like so many comments now that say that. Couple of questions. What are your thoughts on Type 0 and 15? Well, you've already heard my thoughts on Type 0. I think the gameplay of Type 0 is fine. I think the difficulty's really up there. The gameplay is good. When it comes to that camera, though, like, I've tried to get past it. I'm just not willing to make compromises that are going to affect my experience. Like, I won't be able to enjoy the game if I'm sitting back there on that chair. It's going to be such a killer for me. I like to be about this distance from my monitor and whatnot. So I can't formulate a fair opinion about Type 0, honestly. As for 15, it impressed. I'm going into Final Fantasy 15 with very low expectations. I don't think it's going to be a game that was, quote-unquote, worth waiting 10 years for. I mean, it really has gone back and forth in development to the point where it's really only been in development for maybe 2.5, 3 years. But the demo was good. I like the combat. It's not as hack and slashy as everybody thinks. Fighting big enemies is really cool. The world is beautiful. It's got issues with frame rate dips. The lock-on system needs some work. The camera distance needs some work. And there's a bunch of systems we haven't seen yet that I can't judge. Overall, I think it'll be a good Final Fantasy if it keeps the things that it had, and it'll be even better if they fix the problems that it had. And I think they will. I think this was a very bare bones version. I still expect frame rate issues in the full game, just a personal expectation, but at least I can play the game because the camera doesn't kill my head. As for the other things, what do you think is the most important things to do for a hardcore casual to do before the expansion? Do you know when your extra life stream is this year? My extra life stream is usually in November. I haven't decided if I'm doing one earlier this year since I want to go for $10,000 this year instead of $5,000. As for a hardcore casual, just quick elaboration for those of you watching. A hardcore casual is somebody who plays a lot wait, I'm trying to remember what my own explanation of it was, because there's two forms of hardcore and casual. You can be hardcore in, you know, how quickly you progress through content, or in just how much time you dedicate to the game, and you can be casual in both those departments as well. I'm trying to remember which one I said was first. I think a hardcore casual is somebody who plays a lot, but they don't necessarily do a whole lot of progression rating, whereas a casual hardcore is somebody who plays the game a few hours a week just to do the rating or something like that. If it's the first one, then just get every job, get every class even to 30, unlock every job, get all the gatherers or crafters you can to 50, save up a bunch of gil, and kind of just prepare what you want to do first. Do you want to level the new job? Do you want to get one of your old jobs to 60? You need to also keep in mind that your cross-class abilities, there may be new ones. You need to think about that, how much you're going to want to level those. Save up some rested experience, 5 levels worth. There's a bunch of things you can do, but ultimately I think the biggest thing is try to get enough gear on your jobs to the point where the first few levels are really easy in the expansion, and level all those other jobs, and you should be good. Next question. Hey, Mr. Happy. Question for week number 32. Since there seems to be potentially 10-man party shown in the trailer, along with the debate about how the new tank and healer are going to fit into the previous two, what do you think if we are getting 3 tanks, 4 DPS, 3 healers? I don't think they would keep the DPS count the same and increase the amount of tanks or healers, because one of the fun things about having smaller party sizes when you have a big pool of jobs is you begin to have to weigh advantages versus disadvantages, and that's a big thing when it comes to progression. You know, people being able to play multiple jobs and whatnot, and it creates a dynamic where you're not as bored, I guess, if you're willing to play more than one job. You know, maybe for one fight you want to be on this one, maybe for one fight you want to be on that one, and it kind of breaks. Oh, sorry, I hit my microphone. Kind of breaks up the monotony of I play one job, I do 4 fights a week, and I'm done in 2 hours, and I'm good to go. Or I'm progressing, I play the same job every single fight, I do the same thing, I just jump through the mechanics and whatnot. I think the only reason they even showed that 10, you know, the scene everyone's talking about is where they show 10 people and they rotate the camera. I think that's just showing off all the current jobs. I don't think that's necessarily a hint at a 10-man party, but I would actually prefer a 10-man party with the increase of the jobs. I think it might be a little too soon. I think the 4.0 is where I'd expect 10-man parties, depending on how many new jobs they add. I don't think it'll be 3 tanks, 4 DPS, 3 healers. I think with a 10-man party, it would leave options open. You wouldn't be locked into 2 tanks, 2 healers, and 6 DPS. Maybe for one fight you need 3 tanks. Maybe for one fight you prefer 3 healers. It gives you a few more options, again, to roll with when you have a 10-man party. So, I don't think it'll be that, but who the hell knows? You're just asking for my opinion, and that's what it was. Oh man, there are a lot of I'm gonna miss a lot of questions here, guys. I just scrolled down real quick because I wanted to see what I was missing, and holy moly, there are still a lot of long questions left. So apologies ahead of time. I'll extend this video a few extra minutes to get a few extras in. So, yo, Happy, thanks for answering my question. So, new question for next week. What do you think about the super epic larger-than-life summons in 15 that we saw in the demo? I was already getting stoked for this game, but I'm going to end up dying from anticipation now. Keep being awesome and shooting out the sweet vids. Thanks, man. I think that you shouldn't expect all of them to be like Ramu, or as Cindy calls him, Rama. I believe I remember hearing somewhere that the stronger a summon is, the bigger it is. So I'm almost expecting some smaller summons. And also, you really can't expect them all to work like Rama, because what's the point? If all summons are these giant creatures that come out when you hit 0 HP, and then they wipe the floor of everything, and, you know, it's too much. You know, too much of a good thing, it can be a bad thing. I think that the summoning system works entirely different than the way the demo leads off. Even if the summons are still all going to be that size, I don't expect the summoning system to actually work like that. I think that that was really just a complete filler system to get it out there so people could see this is the scale we're looking at for the summons. They're not gonna be able to one-shot everything. They're not gonna be, you know, mandatory for quests or recommended for quests and whatnot. And they're not gonna make sure you get no rewards for using one, almost like punishment for, hey, I couldn't beat this thing, so oh, here you go. But the scale of them is badass. I'm down. Definitely feels more Final Fantasy-ish when you have summons like that in the game. Pretty cool. All right, next question. Hey, Mr. Happy. Question for next week. I have a friend who believes by putting 8 points dex on his Dragoon, it's helping his... Does your friend play Final Fantasy 11? Helps his crit hit, and also by putting strength on his Bard will make it hit harder. Here's what you do. Tell him to go into his statistics screen and hover over strength and read it. Hover over dex and read it. Point out to him that it doesn't say critical hit rate. Tell him this isn't Final Fantasy 11. It doesn't work like that. Just drill it into his head until he figures it out that dex is not good on Dragoons unless you're a tank Dragoon trying to get that extra parry rate, or Bard, that strength is not affected at all. You just need to get him to read the strength and dexterity, all of them. Make him read all of them, what all of the stats do, and really understand how they affect his character. All right, next question. Hello, Mr. Happy. Question for week 32. Do you think the upcoming buff or sequel to the Zodiac Weapon Saga will carry on from the Zeta weapons where they upgrade every few levels or so, or will it be a level 60 questline? So you got to keep in mind the Zetas aren't mandatory for the next questline. Yoshi P said they will, however, give you some advantage. He didn't specify, but some advantage in the level 60 questline that's coming out in 3.1, mind you. Not in 3.0, in 3.1. And that it will still be the same idea, an investment of time for strength. That is the big goal with these Zodiac weapons. So it will carry on from the Zeta if you have one, but if you don't have one, it'll be a brand new questline at level 60. Next question. Hello, Mr. Happy1227. Your videos are great. Thank you. Thank you for making them. You're welcome. Question. What's the ending theme for hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays? I know you posted a link to the source, but what's the specific song? Ballad of a Unicorn by Pop Sky, I believe, is the one you're talking about. I'm almost sure I end every single Mr. Happy Mondays with that same song. Next question. Question for next week. I currently main Bard and I'm in a static group working on turn 11, and I was wondering how your group decided who would get the first tombstone and the second one, etc. Our current DPS consists of 2 ninjas, a black mage, and a bard. Also, will you ever be doing an updated Bard guide rotation video? I probably should, but I've mostly just been telling people where to go. People who have invested now 5 patches into one job and have written some very comprehensive guides. That's what I've been doing on social media for the most part. The only guide I'm actually like really confident in is still effective is my ninja one. I've talked with a lot of other ninjas, and we've all pretty much in agreement that the rotation hasn't changed at all. Mine and Firana's being pretty much the same with a few different wordings, and one being, you know, they're almost similar. As for your tombstone thing, we gave it to our melees first because they did the most damage. You know, the bards were very often singing paeans or ballads because the fights were really long back then. You know, when you don't have a lot of gear, those fights stretch on and paeans and ballads become a lot more common. So you kind of have 2 choices. You can either give them to... Wait a minute. It won't matter anyway. On March 31st, the encrypted tombstone is going to be added to the weekly quest for World of Darkness. It really doesn't matter. Just, I'd say give them to the melee if I had to. Your other option is whoever's doing the least DPS, if you want to give it to them so they can do better DPS. I wouldn't recommend doing that. I'd say whoever does your best DPS, make them even better. But encrypted tombstone, everyone will be able to get one on March 31st anyway. So I don't think you need to worry too much about that. I've gotten this question a lot since we found out about flying mounts. Will the Ariman mount be able to fly? I don't think so, man. They got really tiny wings, and we don't weigh a lot, depending on if you're a Rogadin or a Lalafell. But I feel like if they were going to be able to fly, they'd already be able to fly with us on their back, even though, you know, ground mount is something that's restricted. They got really skinny wings, man. I don't think they're going to be able to do that. Why am I doing this? This is... Next question. Next question, Mr. Happerino. You have to be somebody who comes by my stream. Question for week 32. How do you feel about hard mode only bosses on Alexander? Not the big story important bosses, but like a side or difficult boss that would drop a mount or title. You're speaking of like Algalon or Sinestra or something like. Was it Sinestra? Yeah, Lady Sinestra, I think it was. That sounds like a very World of Warcraft thing to do. I think it's extra incentive to do hard mode to learn a little bit more about Alexander, but I don't know how that would really work. Maybe in the final form? See, those kind of things are really better suited for, I guess, real raids? I guess is the word I want to use. Because, you know, the way Coil worked was you go in, turn 1, boss 1, turn 2, boss 2, turn 3, boss. It wasn't a continuous thing, you know? It was sectioned off, like basically a boss rush. I don't think optional bosses or side bosses work too well if you do that. It could. There's no reason they couldn't just literally say after you beat Alexander hard, there's an additional boss. But then you have to worry about what is the point of this optional boss? Is it like the old school Final Fantasies where it's like, hey, I'm going through the final dungeon. Hey, there's a chest. Oh my God, Omega Weapon came out of the chest. You have nothing to do with the story. You have your own story going on. But that's the problem. There's always going to be a story behind why that optional boss is there. What was it doing there? Why do you need to kill it? Why is it so important to you? What is it going to do to you? I don't see that happening. I think they pretty much want to keep it. You have normal mode for, you know, people who want to do something on Coil's level, but with the Echo. And then you have hard mode for the super hardcore challenge. You know, I don't think they're going to go out of their way for that extra boss. Next question. Hey, Mr. Happy, how you doing today? I'm doing good. How you doing? I got a couple of questions about Heavensward for you. First, with a few details we got about Machinist and their charge shot, do you think they might pick up the same bad rap Dragoon did because of their jumps? So, I think you're misinterpreting the way that the charge shots work. The charge shots don't actually limit your mobility, but in order to execute them, you need to stand still. So Machinist is not like Bard where you're like, oh, I'm going to run around, you know, just shooting wherever you are. It's like, okay, when I need to move, I just need to move as little as humanly possible. Then I need to plant myself in the spot again and begin charging up my shot. It's not so much like, you know, oh, I'm rooting myself in place, and if something comes to hit me, well, I'm screwed. It's just every time you move, that charge is reset. So based on the way it was described in the translation for the Famitsu interview, that's more along the lines of what we're expecting. As for secondly, do you think that might give Zeta weapons a boost to level 60? No. Actually, you know, that wouldn't be a bad idea. That could be a way of giving them a kind of, yeah, you know, that's actually, you know what, though? The next part isn't coming till 3.1 for the Zodiac questline or its sequel, whatever they end up deciding on. So, I don't know. I don't think that's really a head start on that quest, because that would have to mean that would be the first step of the 3.1 era, would be to make it level 60, and you would just get a shortcut to that. I don't think that's actually going to be it. It's not a bad idea. I just don't think it's the direction they're going to go. All right, I actually have someplace I need to be in about 10 minutes, so I'm just going to grab a couple more here, and we're going to be good to go. Couple meaning anywhere from 2 to 4 for me, because a couple, yeah, it doesn't matter. Hi, Mr. Happy. My question for Monday with Mr. Happy 32 is, if you're doing an encounter for the first time, would you go look up strategies and videos before your first time in that encounter, or would you like to experience it first? I find myself torn between wanting content to be fresh and not wanting to let the team down. Thanks. I don't know if I'm the right person to ask for that. I love experiencing it firsthand. That's why I go into the raids immediately when they come out. It's not as easy to do if you're not someone who does that, because people hold you to this expectation in all MMOs that you've either experienced the fight or at least know the fight. It's something that I've always had happen. Final Fantasy 11 people would be excluded for not clearing World of Warcraft, it would happen. It happens in every game. It's just a matter of how much it happens for. And I make guides on my YouTube channel, so obviously I know that that's a thing in MMOs. I want that fresh feeling. I would prefer it. But if you want that, you need to be somebody who's willing to go in on the first day, or the game community itself will hold you back from experiencing it that way. Unfortunately, that's just the way the mindset works. People are very, very stingy about their time. They're not willing to help new people out unless you find a cool group of people. If you find a cool group of people that want to do it that way, well, good for you, because honestly, that's the way you should experience every fight. Just not the way the MMO community tends to work. Next question. Hey, Mr. Happy, what do you think about having specs like in World of Warcraft? So, I don't actually like specs. Okay, let me rephrase that. I don't like skill trees. Specs, I think, are a good idea. And I think that Wildstar did a pretty good idea. At level 10, you get every class got 2 stances. One that either increased enmity and HP, one that increased damage and critical hit rate, or one that increased healing or MP regenerations or something like that. But it was still the same class and you could build it differently. To me, skill trees are worthless, because someone's always going to figure out what's the best thing, and you're never going to have a choice. You never really have a choice with a skill tree. You have choices all the way up to max level, and then you have no choice whatsoever. If you do not play it in the most optimal way for every single fight, people, they shun you. It's terrible. So that's the reason why I don't like skill trees. I feel like those are better suited for games like like Path of Exile or action RPGs in general, where people like to explore and do math and things like that. People do it in MMOs like World of Warcraft, or they used to before, you know, the skill tree was kind of not a tree anymore. I just don't think skill trees in specific work. Specs, I'm cool with, though. So I'm answering this last question a few hours later because that thing that I said I had to go do, I went and I did it after I finished recording this a few hours ago, but now that I'm editing it, I see that I accidentally cut it off at the end by accident. So let's answer the last question again, shall we? Hello, Mr. Happy1227. Question for next hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Do you think Astrologian card drawing will work as the Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories slights? Having random drawing will make knowing the effect difficult, but as you stack cards, you get better and better effects. Keep up the good work. Thank you. I think it's going to work a little bit more like Ace from Final Fantasy Type 0 or Type 0 HD if you've played the recent remake that we've been talking about, where he has an ability where he draws a card, and he's got now one card in sort of his arsenal. And he has a choice. He can use that card, whatever its effect is, or he can draw another card. When he draws the second card, his ability is now replaced with the new card's effect, but because he has two cards, the effect is enhanced. Whether that be increasing his HP, increasing his MP, doing burst damage, whatever it is, I would translate that idea into Astrologian as opposed to, I guess, the Chain of Memories slight. I'm not a big Chain of Memories fan anyway. I like read Chain of Memories, though, in case you were wondering. But that's my answer for that one. If you don't know, if that didn't really explain it properly, I'd watch some gameplay of Ace from Type 0, and it'll help you understand it a little bit better. But anyway, thank you everyone for watching this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. Now, I normally request that you ask the question in the YouTube section, the YouTube comment section. However, for those who didn't know, there's actually a website for a network that I'm a part of. It's the Dream Network on Twitch. And we have these brand new forums. There's a lot of Final Fantasy 14 stuff there. We have a translation corner. We have things for plugins for ACT and whatnot. Depending on whatever it is, there's a wide variety of Final Fantasy 14 topics there. And I want to encourage the use of that a little bit. So instead, how about you go over to this link? I don't know if it's going to let me post a link. If it doesn't let me post a link, like right here on the screen, then the link will be in the description of the video below. You can ask all your questions there. It's a dedicated forum post for it, week 33. Just go there. It's easier for me to track it. It's easier for me to properly capture it, understand how long the post is going to be. Just go there, make it, and if that doesn't work, then of course you have other avenues to reach me, you know, Twitter and whatnot. But anyway, thanks for watching this week's episode. I will see you all next week, and until then, take care.